Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm back up trying this video again. I'm in a much more serene surroundings other than the living room with my little spark plug of a son. Let's get right to it. My bus is leaving in about 7 minutes, so you can be guaranteed that, and I have to get on that bus, and I have a bunch of stuff to do this morning, but I wanted to hop in. Massive news obviously just broke. I think surprising to most, if not almost everyone, except for the parties involved. This did seem to be winding down, but let's just start with the top line. This is great news. Sometimes as bleak and as awful as things are in the world, this was on the cusp of leading to massive amounts of human pain and suffering in places far afield from Iran and Israel and the primary combatants. This held the potential, I compare, of a massive systemic shock, perhaps one that the world has not seen in decades. So that's good. We'll see. There's this wind down time, so there's a lot of bumps along the way or hiccups that could come, but nonetheless, it's been announced. I saw the Washington Post ran a big headline about it. So it seems that all the parties have blinked, and the U.S. and Iran have carried out what seemed to be a fairly coordinated, not to honk my own horn, but if you looked at my initial reaction video from a few days ago, I noted that, as strange as it may be, these sorts of things can be coordinated for very good reason. Both sides clearly did not want a wider war with one another, and both realized that they would inflict massive amounts of pain and damage to each other, and probably neither would come out much better. So there's a lot of interest in communicating intentions. Iran, cleared out these facilities. They were pretty much empty. Not that they want, something they spent millions and millions of dollars building destroyed. I don't want to put too rosy a picture on this, of course. And the U.S., this was somewhat of a dance, and Iran today notified the U.S. That they were going to be firing these missiles towards the base in Qatar. And made it clear that, just to be doubly sure, like, we're not trying to actually probably hit the base. They fired some of their older, more cruder weapons that were much more amenable to being shot down. But to be doubly sure, they, let the U.S. know so that they could fully evacuate the base. God forbid, several soldiers or personnel died in an accident, and that would be a significant problem for the Trump administration strategically, and of course the tragic loss of lives. I don't want to sound cold and inhumane here, because that's always the top line. We have to think about human beings, because be they Israelis, Jewish Israelis, Arab Israelis, Iranians, whoever, the civilians were the ones suffering here. Hopefully this will return the world's attention to the horrific and unspeakable crimes that are being committed in Gaza. That is one of the consequences of this, is that the atrocities have continued, and those need to stop. But taking a step back, and my kind of top line assessment, if this is to be the quote unquote end of the 12-day war, is that and obviously I'm biased, so this could be my bias speaking, but I do try to keep things as tied to my true analysis of the facts, and I can't claim that I'm a perfectly objective. There's no perfect objective observer, but I think it's pretty clear that this was a massive defeat for Netanyahu. Israel. One way I thought about how to frame this, because let's not underplay this. Israel carried out some significant strikes, probably more than even the strikes on the nuclear facilities and the Air Force attacks. Probably most troubling and the biggest capacity that Israel demonstrated was the ability to penetrate Iran with Mossad agents and carry out very close and personal assassinations within Tehran. If I was the Iranian regime, I saw a Financial Times report that they're still, like, the Revolutionary Guards trekking around Iran trying to hunt down Mossad agents, right? So that is a big problem. And so if we again trying to kind of I don't know, evaluate this, analyze this, I think that's probably Netanyahu's coup de grace, was that the ability, because Iran has an advantage over Israel because it's a massive country, but this would be one place that is a bit of a weak spot. They have just massive unguarded borders. I mean, it's almost impossible, as opposed to Israel, which is almost like an island enclave of some sort. Not an island, but it's much easier to monitor that small amount of territory. But other than that, because what were those Mossad agents there to do? I mean, I think Netanyahu really wanted the regime to fall. In regime change is of different levels. As I mentioned, I'm pretty sure they didn't want just an outright collapse. But I think they wanted some sort of decapitation, try to shove someone they support on top. I mean, that sounds ridiculous now, but I think that was, because otherwise, this is all kind of meaningless, because this is why I think Netanyahu is a big loser. Two reasons. I say I gotta get on the bus soon. Number one, this whole pipe dream that we're just going to go in with a bunch of bombs. You had the U.S. with their biggest bombs. You had Israel, one of the most sophisticated militaries in the world, go all out. Pretty much Israel was right. They had pretty much full control over the air in particularly Western Iran for days, and just strike at will. And I think everyone agrees now that Iran's capacity to make a nuclear weapon is maybe limited, maybe set back, but not gone. And I don't think, and what happened here is I don't think anyone's going to be convinced in the future that another attack is going to do this. So, I mean, this has been a 30-year dream for Netanyahu, right? And I think it went out with a whimper, and it kind of verified what people have been saying for years. U.S. officials, European officials, Israeli officials, to a lesser extent, Middle Eastern experts. You cannot bomb your way out of this problem. And we've learned that. So that's this whole phantasm. And that's why I thought, Netanyahu deep down was really pushing for some sort of regime change, or at least decapitation, because then if you get, different people in charge, maybe they will be less inclined to develop these capacities. That didn't happen. Second, as I've noted in multiple videos, I think a big blow to Netanyahu is the veneer of invulnerability. And again, these had real material effects, these strikes. They also had massive psychological effects, not only in Israel, but in the region. If this does pan out and a ceasefire holds and the Islamic Republic and Khamenei stay in power, Iran's prestige, for better or for not, in the Arab Street, in the Middle East, wider Middle East, it had taken some blows after Hezbollah crumbled, to be sure. I'm going to start walking towards my bus now here. It had taken some blows with the crumbling of Hezbollah. But if they are able to demonstrate that they were able to kind of demonstrate a quite effective deterrence capability against Israel, that is a significant blow to Netanyahu and the government in Israel, and one that I think that's not going to sit well with them. And I'll leave it with this, because I think my bus is about to leave. I gotta start running now. I think one question I have is, I mentioned yesterday, I'm fairly convinced that Israel is determined to get this regime out of Iran. It seems that they failed this time. Will they continue with covert operations, with espionage? I think this is an important turning point and an important shift, but I would not, say that we're out of the woods, obviously, on this. A lot of bad precedents have been set that are probably going to play out in different ways in the future. All right, everybody, got to take off. See ya.